Never seen a smile so big on my little Lord lady's face until I tell her I'm going fishing all weekend. Pack up all of my bait and I make plans for 7:45 and I swing around, pick up my date for the weekend. Some reason she seems to please when I'm leaving. There's something I'm missing when I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing. When I'm gone fishing.
Yeah, baby.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone has had a fantastic weekend. I will say this. What I'm really hoping is everyone got out and enjoyed that weather, especially if you're in Ontario. I think everybody across Canada has seen some abnormally high temperatures for this time of year. But unfortunately, the reality of the time of year has crept up and smacked us in the mouth because it's ready to snow out there. I don't know what it's like over where you are. Klassen, what's it doing up where you are? Is it raining? Is it snowing? Steve, what's going on out your way, my friend? I can only imagine. It's been off. It's wanted to snow all day. If you've been out in it at all, you know what I'm talking about. It just seems to be churning up all kinds of Lake Ontario, and it seems to want to dump precipitation in all forms all across southern Ontario. So if you guys are experiencing snow, my apologies or my condolences. If you're still enjoying the sunshine, good on you. But needless to say, there was an incredible amount of fish picks this past weekend. So I know a lot of you, Sonia, you being one of them, you were definitely out. Trisha, I don't know if you managed to get out, but it's nice to see you. Hopefully you enjoyed some of that weather. I'll tell you, I had a buddy of mine that was out on the Detroit River, and his one buddy got absolutely burnt. I think Jay Barnucz, when he comes on here, he's going to talk about his sunburn as well. It was summer. And for us who are sort of pale, if you will, we are targets for the sun. And it hit us. If you were out and you weren't protected, you're probably dealing with a little bit of sunburn right now. Alesha, we heard that you put on a sleigh fest, you and the girls, when it came to some of your catfish journey, or at least your catfish journey that you got out. It looked like everybody was having fun. Some incredible fish were caught. Nice to see that. Lloyd's in the house. Nice to see you, Lloyd. Eve's here. How you doing, Eve? Bob, always a pleasure to see you as well. Hope you guys are enjoying the weather. The Bealers, nice. I mean, we live vicariously. Who doesn't live vicariously through the Bealers? They got out and enjoyed some great fishing. Erica caught a beautiful pike. Nice to see that. Fernando, nice to see you as well. Terry, I'm sure whatever is being pushed down Lake Ontario is falling on you right now. Hopefully it's not in the frozen, not frozen snow or pellets or whatever that Mother Nature's thrown at us right now. It's like she woke up. It's almost like she fell asleep at the wheel. Somebody snuck in, flicked the switch. We got summer in the blink of an eye. And then, as I said, somebody woke her up and said, whoa, this is spring. We can't have this yet. And as I said, the reality is going on outside right now. I put on sunscreen, my arms and legs, forgot my face and neck. Yeah, well, you weren't the only one. Chores. Yes, Yvonne did some spring cleaning, Tricia, so you weren't the only one. I'm on call, so I'm hoping this thing doesn't go off. If it does, of course, we have our special guest host, Yvonne, who will be taking over. And then, of course, the panel with Jim, Lawrence, and Jay will be coming on right after. Hoping our good buddy Moose is able to join us as well to talk about the OFC Nation charity tournament that's going to be going on Balsam Lake in tandem with CSFL and, of course, the Lunker Bowl. Haven't got a lot of announcements today because when it's ladies' night, we always have an action-packed show. So I don't want to dilly-dally. I want to get right to it. So, of course, the important stuff. Jeremy, I saw your text. We'll make sure we get to your recipe. Those smelt, man. we live vicariously through you because those smelt runs just don't happen where we are like they do up your way. So always, always, always nice to see what you've got cooking. What else have we got here? Tony, pleasure seeing you. Richard's in the house. Thanks for all your sharing, buddy. Big shout out, tip of the hat to you, man. As I said, our community is only able to reach as much as our community is able to allow it. And you, my friend, do a fantastic job of that. So without further ado, let's get quickly to the announcements. Of course, I only have the two right now. Horwood Lake Lodge, our 5th annual CFN retreat up at Horwood Lake Lodge, just outside of Timmins, is going to be going on. And I'm looking forward to it, as is a lot of CFNers. Can't wait to get up there. It's always a good time. No matter who comes, you're guaranteed to be fed really well, and you're guaranteed to have a blast with our CFN community, just like these folks in years yonder. Have a look. So that's August 14th to the 19th. Please get in touch with Warren and Doris up at Horwood Lake Lodge. Make sure you book your butt in a bed so that we can see you up there and we can get you fed and get you on some fish. It is a great time. It's the highlight of my summer. I really, really look forward to it. Again, go to www.horwoodlakelodge.com. And as I said, Warren and Doris will take it from there. The only other event that is a retreat that we're going to be doing, of course, is at Camp McIntosh. That is September 22nd to the 24th. As I said, if you need to know a little bit more about Camp McIntosh, have a look at this.
Where are you going, Don?
Camp McIntosh.
Yeah, baby.
Camp McIntosh it is. It's, again, September 22nd to the 24th. That one is filling up quickly. We have lots of people that are interested in that. So, again, make sure you call Tracy or Andre and get that booked. www.campmcintosh.com. Please get there, speak to Tracy, get your butt booked in a bed so that we can get you fed and get you on fish. It's going to be a great time. Always is. And, of course, it's the people that go up there that make it that much more special. It is Monster Monday. And with that, we like to feature our community, but we also like to feature big fish. We did this last week with the carp. We're going to do this with, because I'll tell you, one of the most popular posts that we put up this past weekend was Bill White holding the catfish. And we just said, let's see your kitties. I want to see all your cats. And I'll tell you, the engagement was incredible from all across Canada. We got a lot of posts and pics. It was awesome. And we really appreciate that. But take a look at this beast. Her name is Tabitha Linville. and she lives down in West Virginia. Not 100% sure what body of water she fishes, but I can assure you, when you are done here, you're probably going to go and Google her or look for her on Facebook to find out what body of water she's fishing. Because if you like cats, this looks like the place that you want to go. This is on her Easy Cat, made by Sea Arc. Of course, her name is Tabitha Linville, as I mentioned. Believe this or not, this is only her second biggest fish of her life. I can't even begin to imagine what the biggest fish is, but I'll tell you what. Take a wild guess. At the end of the show, we'll announce what the weight is. Leave a guess in the comment. The one who gets the closest, we are going to send you a gift pack courtesy of POW Castings. Again, this is the second biggest cat of her life. Talk about a master angler. This is like a platinum angler. I don't even know what you call this, but the fact that she's holding it now, it's probably a fisheye camera. It doesn't matter. Irregardless, take a wild guess what that fish weighs. I'm sure if you get a chance to go over right now and find her on Facebook, you'll find out yourself how big this fish is. But again, leave a comment leave your guess in the comments, and the one who's closest, we will send you a wonderful gift pack courtesy of our friends over at POW Castings. Now, that's it for me for announcements. Let's bring on our buddy Moose to talk about OFC Nation and, of course, the charity tournament. Moose is in the house. How you doing, Moose?
Good. How you doing, brother? All good. Is well in CFN land?
All is well so far, and it's even better now that you're here, dude.
Well, listen. It's not the first time I've heard that. No, I'm just kidding. I won't keep you guys too long. Just a couple of quick things. Every Monday night, I will keep you up to date on events that are coming up, events we're doing and events that others are doing. The one most important event is going to be the OFC Nation charity tournament in partnership with, in conjunction with, not partnership with, but in conjunction with the CSFL Lunker Bowl on May 20th. So I'll quickly mention this before I get to the May 20th Lunker Bowl tournament. There is another tournament that we got to talk about, and I believe it's full right now, and I believe you and I will be doing the Canada-US Walleye. So always draws a big crowd out in Bob Cajun there, and it's a blast. It's a hoot. So that's on Sturgeon Lake. So you can call the fine folks at the Canada-US Walleye and put yourself on a waiting list if there's no spots. Another one that came across my profile today, across my table, was from the one and only Mr. David Chong. So Chonger's got, let me see if I can find it here. David, where are you? Dave Chong. Fun. So for those of you that like pike tournaments, there is a Pike Open. North GTA Bass Anglers, David Chong is hosting a pike tournament, and it's going to run May 13th from 7:30 to 3:30. Check-in is at 6:30 in the morning. So look up NGTA Bass Anglers, and you can get some more details on that. I got that in my email this morning and thought, oh my, because we've got a pike tournament before that as well. So the DAA, Durham Anglers, are going to host a Pike Open on Balsam Lake. So that is, right now it's scheduled for the first weekend in May, which I believe is going to be either the 6th or 7th. So there will be like a fun pike tournament based on a 50 boat field or 75 boat field. The payouts are fantastic. We're going to pay all the way out to 10th spot. So May is going to be, pike, and more pike. So May 6th, look out for the DAA Durham Anglers Pike Tournament. May 13th, look out for David Chong's NGTA Pike Tournament there. And then that takes us to May 20th. So May 20th is the OFC Nation Charity Tournament. And for those of you who have no idea what that is, I will quickly fill you in. So the CSFL is running their Lunker Bowl Pike Tournament. The Lunker Bowl works as an hourly tournament. So you bring in a fish every hour. If your fish is the biggest fish for that hour, you win a cash prize. There's also a whole bunch of little contingency prizes throughout the day. I believe they've got cast cards and there's all kinds of stuff. But we are joining them on that day on Balsam Lake. And we're going to run our charity tournament. It's $75 per person. And our charity tournament is based on length. Their charity tournament or their tournament is based on weight. So our weigh-in is at the end of the day, and we're going to give a first, second, and third place prize. Our friends from Shimano stepped up to the plate again. We've got rods, we've got reels, we've got tackle, we've got goodies. Anybody who signs up for the charity tournament will get a grab bag full of goodies. On top of that, Jackal has decided that they're going to throw some 4-inch rhythm waves into the mix. So there's going to be a separate Jackal prize. So if you catch a giant pike on a Jackal prize, there's another little contingency prize in it for you. So the grab bag is going to consist of all kinds of goodies. I promise you, it will be over $75 in value. It is already up to $55 in value. And I know 3 other people that are going to pitch in. So it's a $75 tournament. You will get a grab bag, definitely worth over $75 worth of goods. We're going to do first, second, and third adult, first, second, and third child. And to be honest with you, every year that we've run this, and Jeff used to run this charity tournament with his work. And then, the fishing world got a hold of it and Jeff changed jobs. So we continued with it. It is the 10th annual. Every time we've tried to hand somebody a check, they've given it back. So it's very, it's a tearjerker. I remember the one year, man, every single person just handed it back. I'd like to donate this back to the club. And it was super cool. So we had more money to give towards the charity. So again, May 20th, the Pike charity tournament is $75. Now, if you choose to do both the Lunker Bowl and the charity tournament, the cost of the Lunker Bowl is $200 taxes in. So it's $177 per team, $200 taxes in. That's the CSFL Lunker Bowl. The charity tournament is $75 a person. The bonus with the Lunker Bowl is you can put 3 people to a boat. So you increase your chances, 3 rods, 3 reels, 3 casts, 3 fish, 3 giant prizes is possible. So all together is $425 for the day, or you can do just the charity tournament for $75, or you could do just the CSFL Lunker Bowl hourly tournament for $177 plus tax. That is probably going to be the funnest day. We are also including food. So there will be a barbecue at the end. There's going to be food. There's going to be drinks. There's going to be prizes. There's going to be music. There's going to be laughs. There's going to be tears. There's going to be a lot. So now that I've taken all that information and gave it out, go back and watch this, because if you need more information, you can always reach out to any one of us or go to csfl.ca/registration to get your registration form. Send it in to Miss Vita. Let her know you want to register for the CSFL Lunker Bowl and the OFC Nation Charity Tournament.
Moose, that is a mic drop. Well done, buddy.
I didn't even hiccup once there.
No, that was fantastic.
I was impressed. Oh, I almost lit my beard on fire.
Wow.
Yeah, that went really smooth.
Yeah.
Really smooth.
Awesome.
Usually I'm stumbling over my words.
Well done, dude. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us and bringing us up to date with that. Again, it's going to be a great time, and there might even be a fish fry included.
Ooh, I didn't say anything. But you know who else is going to be there? The Pike Slayer, Jeff Richard.
Jeff Richard. And
have you seen that guy catch pike?
No, I will say this. If he's anything like Richard Elliott, it's worth the price of admission.
Oh, man. I'm telling you, Jeff and pike are like one. If Jeff was an animal, he'd be a pike.
There you go. Wow.
He's probably laughing right now thinking, what's he talking about? Oh, boy. So listen, guys, get on a boat, 3 to a boat. Honestly, it's a blast. Double, triple your chances of winning some cash and prizes. If you choose to do just the OFC Nation charity tournament, make sure that the vessel you are coming out in is water safe. So as long as it's okay with, everybody out there, and it's a perfectly operating, good floating device, You can fish out of an aluminum if you want, because it is just going to be measured, and we're going to use the app, and you're going to take pictures and so on and so forth. So again, make sure your vessel is water safe, and you can do the charity tournament. If you choose to go the other route and do the charity tournament and a lunker bowl, 3 people to a boat, csfl.ca/registration. I'm Moose. Peace.
Right on, brother. We have Yvonne coming up next, right after a word from our sponsor. Take care, buddy.
Cheers.
There she is, the one, the only. Always a pleasure to have you every time it's ladies' night. Well, sometimes we get it on every month, sometimes it's every 2 months, but either way, we are just as happy to have you regardless, Yvonne. You've been busy. I heard you did some spring cleaning. Your ladies were out catfishing on the weekend.
Yes.
Did extremely well from what I gathered. A few master anglers were caught.
12 master anglers. No, I would say there were 12 people that caught master angler fish, and I believe there was multiple master angler fish caught.
Holy smokes.
Right? So they only get 1 submission per year, that species. Alesha could probably comment how many master anglers were caught, but everybody got one, at least one.
Incredible. Well, as I said, it's always awesome to see ladies It's always awesome to see ladies holding up big fish. This one, as I said, not only is it a master angler, it is something that we want all of you to guess. Put it in the comments. Guess the weight. Her name is Tabitha. That's all I'm going to tell you. And it is her second biggest fish of all time. And we will give away a prize at the end of this to one lucky winner that is the closest when it comes to guessing. And as it is right now, we've got Terry and Richard Dunlop that are the closest. So keep them coming. Anyway, Yvonne, I'm sure you've got a million messages and announcements that you want to get to, so I don't want to hold you up. Let her rip.
Yeah, I do have a few events that I'd like to tell people that are coming up. The Channel Cat one that was on Saturday, this past Saturday, it was just awesome. I've got a ton of pictures that I'm going to post after the show. But they looked like they had a great time. There were 5 volunteers that ran it. Kat Bodden, Alicia Raytrowski, Trisha Wallace, Sarah Jinkerson, and Tia Carter. So I just wanted to say thank you to all those ladies for the wonderful job that they did. All the participants had a fantastic time. And I have a feeling that this will be a very popular event next year, especially when people know they can catch a master angler fish.
Right.
And just speaking of volunteers, this is National Volunteer Week. And the volunteers at OWA put together a little montage of the theme was Ontario Women Angler Volunteers Rock. And so I did a little intro video, and then all the ladies kind of dressed up, and it was the theme was like rock out. So you had to use fishing equipment as musical instruments to take your picture.
Wow. Ingenious. Well
Yeah.
done. Did you have to be able to play it too,
Yeah,
or
it
just
was-
it doesn't?
Well, I don't know. I made bagpipes made out of ice fishing rods, so some of them had like real guitars, but other stuff it was just like fishing equipment.
Unreal.
Yeah.
That's
You'll
awesome.
see it if you look on the Ontario Women Anglers page. You'll be able to see it. Yeah. So yeah, I just want to publicly say that I am very, very appreciative of all the volunteers that have helped with Ontario Women Anglers. They are truly the backbone of the organization, and there's so much that is done, you know, not just with events, but behind the scenes that these ladies take care of, and I'll always be grateful for their help. So I just wanted to send a shout out to them.
Right on.
So as far as events, we have a number of them are coming up. Some registration is open, some will be open soon. We have a perch fishing event up in Brucken on May 13th. We have access to private property at one of the hotels there. All of the information is on the website. That's what I was doing when you guys were talking. I was updating the website. So all the events that have registration open, the links are live. We also have a cleanup day. It's going to be on Earth Day, which I believe is April 22nd.
Yeah.
And different people around Southern Ontario or wherever they live can go to like a boat launch or shoreline and clean it up and then take pictures. And, you know, everyone who registers, I think that we're making a donation. I can't remember to who. Hang on a second.
All good, but you are right. With the volunteers are the backbone, and I can't say enough about our community as well. OWA is built on a foundation of ladies like to pitch in. CFN is no different, and we appreciate them all. With it being, you know, the recognition of volunteers. Without them, we can't thank you enough, or we'd be nothing. So yeah, no, very well said, Yvonne.
Yeah, and as far like with CFN, I mean, you do a lot of work with this program and outside of this program. But I also wanted to thank Steve Shaw.
Yep.
Like he's so great at sharing our stuff and promoting, you know, some of the ladies that have had a nice catch and they post it online, and he puts it into, you know, one of those little graphics, and it's just wonderful, and it makes them feel so good and to have their accomplishment recognized online. So I just want to say a big thank you to him as well.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, back. So we have this other event. It's called the Chester Cup. We do it annually. It started off as a sunfish shoreline event, and we're bringing it back to its roots. So it's going to be sunfish only. You have to fish from shore, and this year is new. You have to fish either with a child's rod or an ice fishing rod, no longer than 32 inches.
Nice
So
idea.
make it a little bit more challenging.
Nice idea.
Again, on our events page on the website, you can click to see the details of that. And we have fly fishing coming up on June 11th. That'll be out in Orangeville. We have a bass fishing weekend for women, June 22nd to 25th. That's going to be just north of Kingston at Elbow Lake. It's a very popular event. We'll have about 21 spots for that. And we have a kayak fishing and social coming up at Island Lake again on July 9th. Das King Kayaks is coming out to do a bit of a demo too. They're bringing some of the kayaks that they produce and will help ladies, you know, learn all about kayak fishing and getting in and out of a kayak. They've also been very generous sponsors of us. The last few years, they've donated a kayak for our fundraising campaign. So we're really appreciative of that. And then just one more, we have a Shimano sponsored tournament coming up. It's August 19th. Details aren't out yet. We're hoping to have 10 boaters, like Shimano field staff, Shimano staff, and they'll take 2 ladies out per boat. We're going to be on Shamong, and it's going to be a big bass challenge. So we'll weigh in every hour and a half, and there will be a like a dinner afterwards. So as soon as we have all the details, that will soon be posted.
That's awesome.
And that's it for now. The next time I'm on, I'm going to have more details about other events coming up.
Now, we've posted the link to your webpage, of course, as well
Oh,
as your
thanks.
Facebook link. Mark is saying that my aunt would love this. How does one get involved?
We have, some people don't know this, but we have a closed Facebook group. It's called Ontario Women Anglers, and there are over 1,500 ladies in there, mostly from Ontario, but some from other provinces and in the States. It's a good idea. Just if you do a search on Facebook, you'll find our public page, but you also find this private group. It's just women, as I said, and they can go in there and they see not just all of our event information, but ladies post their fishing pictures. They ask questions about, let's say they're looking to buy waders and they want some sort of information, what to buy, what brands are good, etc. So that's a good start, but also look at our membership page on the website, our events page, and just see that we try to spread our events around and see if there's just one in their area.
That's awesome. Well, as always, Yvonne, when you come here, it's great just to share some time with yourself, but also you bring a collection of beauties that I would call, and I say that with meaning it's like it encompasses everything. They're just beautiful people. They do beautiful work. They're extremely engaging, and we've had Alesha on before. But it's nice to have Alesha on again because she's up to a lot of things, and that's the underlying common denominator of all this. All of the ladies that you bring on here are extremely busy and busy doing things to get that passion of angling instilled in all of us. And Alesha, as I said, is the cornerstone of that. And again, can't thank her enough. So let's bring her in. Alesha, always a pleasure to see you.
Thanks for having me. I like how you backpedaled there a little bit. I was sitting here in the side room there, just giggling away.
Well,
she is a beautiful person.
At the end of the day, I always put my foot in my mouth, so
I can tell.
Tonight's no different. But when you say beauties, I mean, there's obviously the beautiful factor, but it's just what you guys do for our industry, and what you do for anglers. Like Mark had just said, his aunt is interested in getting involved in stuff like this, and I know there's a lot of other ladies that would be interested in getting involved with OWA and some of the events that you guys carry on. No different than OFAH and some of the initiatives that you do there. But again, you guys are just so busy. You're focused on your work, and as I said, we all sit back in awe. And again, as always, we're so appreciative of you spending time with us. But Alesha, second time around,
yeah, this time I have something to talk about, because last time was at the beginning of the pandemic and all of my programs were on hiatus. So it's nice to actually be able to promote and really talk about things that we're actively doing now, because we aren't on the sidelines this anymore. We're back onto full-fledged outreach programs.
That's great.
100%.
So can you tell us a little bit about what's coming up this spring, summer?
Like for tackle share, I would imagine. Is that what you mean in general?
Tackle share too, but if there's other events like the Get Outdoors, I know it's usually an overnight camp. You're not doing overnight camps anymore,
right?
Or right now. So will there be a day camp for that?
The day camp is running, and it's definitely full by now. So that's a program run by my counterpart, Mary Beth, at our Hunting and Fishing Heritage Center in Peterborough. And they opened up the registration. Of course, it filled up really quickly because it's got such a diverse amount of programming that they have. Very similar to the one that I ran for the overnight. It's the age group's a little bit younger, but yeah, it's full and keeping Mary Beth busy by far. So that's as far as that going. The Get Outdoor, like the overnight camp, is on hiatus now, as we're just kind of trying to reassess that overnight programming and what direction we're taking our outreach programs. That being said, I went from running the Women's Outdoor Weekend and Get Outdoors exclusively to then filling in the need for tackle share, which is kind of what our bread and butter is at right now, because we're really noticing a lot of people asking how they get involved in fishing. And I think most of the audience that's going to be watching this now are probably already experienced anglers. And we're trying to really get those people who are just at the very beginning of the cusp, don't have a fishing rod, don't know how to tie a knot. We're trying to get that very, very, very basic content out there for new anglers. Yeah.
So it's funny. I had a gentleman at work, and he went out because his daughter is very interested in getting her into fishing, of course. And the daughter just she's got the bug. So of course, he did what I'd say probably half of us would, especially if you live in the area of Bass Pro. Took his daughter to Bass Pro and decided to buy a rod. But when it comes to the tackle share, and you two in front of me, I started shaking my head. And he says, "What was that the wrong thing to do?" I said, "No, but there's so many other opportunities that you could have taken her to
Yeah.
and provided her and put in front of her." That Bass Pro, not to say anything bad about Bass Pro, but that's not the first solution that I would have suggested. And of course, he missed it by like 2 days. It would have been great to have him watch this, and I could have passed this on to him and said, "Here, dude, this is what I'm talking about."
Yeah, that's a lot of the time we try and mention that, anyone who's going out and trying to experience fishing and they want to borrow the equipment, and I may explain that here in a minute just in case anyone doesn't know how that operates. But one of the best times I kind of am trying to promote is that during those license-free days in, like, I'm not going to mention the winter, but like Mother's Day weekend, Father's Day weekend, and those 9 straight days in July, it's a great time to bring a friend along fishing with you. And I think almost any angler here who's watching probably has multiple rods, but if you don't and you want to bring somebody along with you, we always have fishing gear available that people can borrow at any of our sites across the province. So that's one of those key things. It's for new anglers who are searching to better themselves, but then it's also a really great resource for people who are currently anglers and they want to bring somebody along with them and they don't have that gear. So it kind of fits two needs where people can kind of be aware of the program. So for those of you who don't know how Tackle Share operates, it's actually, the program this is its 25th year this summer. It's been running for a very long time. It started off as a very grassroots program where we had a bunch of fishing gear available that no one used anymore, and they repurposed it and created what we call loaner sites. So basically key locations across the province where people can just go in and borrow fishing gear for free. We're now at about 140 locations across the province of Ontario, as far north as Red Lake, all the way to the Quebec border, and all the way to the southern tip of Ontario. We're always trying to expand and refine those loaner sites to get fishing gear in the hands of as many anglers as possible. And they primarily are at Ontario parks, conservation areas, public libraries, and a few other community locations to try and make sure that they're at locations where there's always staff ready there to lend out the gear. We don't want to have the gear sitting behind locked doors because somebody's away. It's not like a 9 to 5. So we try and make sure that the gear is there, and they have spinning rod and reel, as well as a small basic tackle box that goes along with it that people can go and just walk to their closest shoreline and throw a line in and try and catch some fish.
That is awesome. Well, and I want to thank Yvonne, because when I saw this map, and you could maybe explain this, I'm like, this is the reach of Tackle Share. This is huge.
It's huge, yeah. And the green pinpoints are the Ontario parks. The blue with the book, which may be hard to see in here, are the libraries. The dark blue pinpoints are the conservation areas, and the purples are the other kind of categories, which could not fit in the other 3. But yeah, so it's pretty diverse, and we're always trying to get them in new areas. You can also see in the north, it kind of follows the main corridors and all of the Ontario parks. And the biggest demand, of course, is in southern Ontario, because that is where the population density is. And getting that gear into the hand of as many anglers as possible is our goal. So in a general year, so pre-pandemic years, we would get those rods in the hands of 33,000 anglers each year, which is a pretty substantial number, I would consider, based on, we kind of only maintain about 800 rods at each site, 800 rods across the province each year. So of course we add some every single year. We lose some, of course. If it's well-used equipment, it does tend to wear. So we're really proud of how we've been able to make sure it's very, very diverse. But still there's some wiggle room. Like there's going to be pockets of the province we haven't been able to get into. We do have one site now that we're, I hope I'm not preemptively announcing this, but there'll be one in Mississauga this year. So we're trying to get into a bit more like GTA kind of based areas. The hardest part is trying to find places that are willing to take it on. If the people the loaner site administrator is not an angler themselves, it may be very daunting. to them. So we're
Mhm.
kind of nudging that. We've done a lot of rural locations through Ontario parks, conservation areas and that, but we're trying to actually get right into community centers, because you don't really have to leave the city to go fishing. There's a lot of
Mhm.
urban fishing opportunities that are huge, and it's a good way to remove those barriers that people find that get them involved in fishing, because they just have never had a chance to, or they never thought that they might enjoy it because they never had a chance.
Mhm. I just I'm working with some marketing students at St. Lawrence College. They're doing a project for Ontario Women Anglers, and I did like an intro to fishing seminar for them. And they were, I mean, they were just thrilled. A lot of them are international students, so in their home countries, there's fishing, but it's commercial fishing. There isn't really recreational fishing opportunities. So I spoke to them about Tackle Share, and I think I looked up if there were any sites in Kingston. I don't know if there was, but I just thought if the interest grew, it would be nice if the college could become a site at some point, because Lake Ontario is right there, and there's lots of different conservation areas and marinas or whatever that they could fish in.
Yeah, well, you can always have them contact me, or I can reach out to them, because I am looking at expanding a few locations through this year, like some really core locations, trying to make sure that, like, it's one thing to send rods to like a really remote location that may get 3 people throughout the year, but it's another thing
Yeah.
to get them to other locations that rod's going to be turned over 15 or 20 times in the summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what does someone like? I mean, a lot of our listeners here might be interested to further a program like this, Alesha, and help you with this. What does someone have to do to qualify? How do they go about promoting it? Is there any prerequisites in terms of how close they are to a body of water? Can you go through some of the criteria in which you can be a part of this program?
It's like you knew the answer to it already. You basically listed off all the things immediately.
Mhm.
We are kind of conservative with how much we grow each year, because we are a nonprofit organization. This program is very good, a very, very tight budget. So we can't say yes to everyone. And because we've actually had quite a few requests, and it kills me that I know I'm not going to be able to say yes to every single one.
Mhm.
We try to make sure that no two locations are within the same city or close area, because you want to make sure that we're getting them as broadly across the province as we can.
Mhm.
We do have, my main stipulations would be that the equipment be able to be kept tidy and readily available. So, for example, like if it's only held at a location that's only open 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, that's not very
Mhm.
convenient for most anglers. So we try to make sure that they've got reasonable hours, that there's dedicated staff they're able to help with the lending process. And we do say, quote unquote, with a reasonable distance or walking distance to a fishable shoreline or within reason. So that's why they tend to be at a lot of Ontario parks, conservation areas, because they meet a lot of those stipulations.
Mhm.
And a lot of the locations that end up in like the other category would be places that are kind of what Yvonne was suggesting, kind of not following the same structure. It would be some, like on the rare occasion, they're at like tourism offices, or sometimes they're
Mhm.
at like the actual conservation authority like head office, which has nothing to do, like there's nothing on site. It's literally like an office building.
Yeah.
So we do, and kind of we have to judge each request. So you can look online at tackleshare.com on our loaner sites tab. There is a application form that can be sent in for consideration. We are really, like I said, I've already had a lot of requests in so far, but it does not hurt to submit, because we are looking at expanding, and we're really trying to make sure that those locations will be great to turn over rods on a regular basis. So there'll be high traffic versus sites that would be, would not have a lot of people through the doors to basically see the rods and ask questions or help raise awareness, especially locations that are really good with their social media to promote it, so people know that the
Yeah.
fishing equipment is there, and actively being involved in that. Yeah.
Now, he's asked a great question. Can folks
Yeah.
donate used equipment to Tackle Share?
Within reason, yes. There's we do accept fishing equipment to our head office in Peterborough, either through straight drop off. Apparently, I've got the tongue tied. Moose got away free on that one at the beginning. Through straight drop off at our main building, or you could send it as well. But I would ask that no one would ever drop equipment off at a loaner site, because those loaner site administrators would not be expecting it nor know what to do with it. So
Okay.
we do try to universalize all the equipment that is at a loaner site, so that when I send out instructions to those administrators, they know the exact same rod that I sent them is the same one that the instruction packet goes with. So we also want to make sure people aren't sending, like a 17-foot salmon fishing rod to a loaner site for novice anglers. So we have to filter through what comes through. So yes, we would accept fishing equipment, usually like 2-piece 6'6" type spinning rods that are like 1500 to 2500 series reel. Those are kind of what we use. And then we do also accept donations because we're just now, and I'm going to get into it in a bit, doing our Fish Along with Tackle Share, which is a YouTube video series that we're doing to introduce new and novice anglers to fishing skills through like bite-sized little videos, like 5 to 10 minute videos to kind of answer common questions that people have about different fishing strategies, DIYs, how to fishing, all those different things. I've used quite a bit of our donated equipment in those videos to be able to go out, and it saves us having to go and buy it. Like, it saves our budget, so we can kind of reassess how we're doing things. So it's nice, the donations I've got quite a bit lined up this year to repurpose a lot of the fishing gear that we have had supplied that wasn't applicable to loaner sites.
Great question. Or a great answer. That's fantastic. Go ahead, Yvonne.
Collection. Collection of fishing rods.
No kidding.
Yeah. So should I zip into that then? Talk about the fish along?
Yeah.
So traditionally, Tackle Share, like I said, it's a 25-year program. Started off just with our loaner sites. That was how it was. We were helping to remove those barriers that prevented people from getting involved in angling by providing fishing equipment for free. And in addition to that, we've also kind of pivoted with the pandemic and made education as easily accessible, if not more so. So we've created the Fish Along with Tackle Share component that we would call. So we encourage any angler to watch, fish, and win. So we want them to watch our educational fishing videos on our YouTube channel, learn from our online resources. We have a lot of PDF resources like fish fact sheets, knot tying sheets, fishing checklist, which I created mostly for myself. And then now I realize it would be very useful for everyone else. So I use it on the daily. And in doing that, so going out and learning from the videos, learning from those online resources that we have, and then we want those anglers to go out and catch fish. And if you do, to go and submit a photo to our Fish Along with Tackle Share challenge, and we give out prizes as well, like automatic prizes, but then we also do monthly draws as well. So that's like an added feature that people have been really kind of jumping on, and I think it's very similar to the photo submissions, I guess, that CFN gets as well.
100%.
Because I've seen a couple duplicates, and I thought, oh geez.
Oh, no, it's all good. Alesha, here at CFN, we're all about cross promotion. So you know what?
Yeah.
We would love to promote something like this, and of course, as busy as we are, this is it's a great initiative. And again, this is, as you said, grassroots. If we want to get folks, especially the next gen of anglers, involved in fishing, this is how we do it.
And the more responsible anglers there are actively fishing in Ontario, the better it is for all of us. And I know that it's one of those things that everyone kind of, you feel the crowding or the pressure of people on your fishing spots, but at the same point, as long as we're educating the public that everyone knows that these are the responsible things an angler would do, and sharing your passion for the outdoors is the best way to go, because that is going to have a key element. And like, for example, this past weekend we were we were looking at fish because it's obviously closed right now, and I think my little young son looked over and he's like, he knows that walleye's closed, and he looked over and he's 4 years old and he's talking in his loud voice being like, that's illegal, and we're thinking like, oh my god, this kid's gonna get out. I know, and I thought, well, obviously we didn't even mention that to him in the last like month or so it's stuck in his brain, and I'm thinking, oh, good to know that you have no fear of telling anybody exactly what they're doing. That's good to know.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. So let's say we put this back up, and again, it's not exactly perfect when it comes to where exactly it is in terms of like, hopefully you can see it, but in a roundabout way, those are some of the pictures there in terms of where these tackle shares are going on. Let's say Richard Dunlop, who knows that there's a tackle share going on in Arnprior. How does he donate product? How does he donate used product?
But that would have to go to our head office. So either shipping it to us or dropping it off. So we don't want to have anybody driving to those loaner sites, because then they would be overwhelmed with gear. But one thing I didn't mention, of course, that was a screen capture that I had sent to you guys in advance.
Right.
Yeah.
But on the Tackle Share website, and I think Jason already threw up the link there in the chat, was
Yeah.
you can go in there and there's actually an interactive map that if you go in and expand it and you can zoom in, of course, those pinpoints are quite literally, they're not even just at the facility, but they're quite literally the building, the coordinates of the building that the gear is in. So for example, the loaner, if you go to Emily Provincial Park, we did the pinpoint on the building where the fishing gear is, not just like the main park in general. So it helps people actually find the fishing gear easier. And on the YouTube channel, I've even added a how-to borrow fishing gear for free video if anybody wanted to check it out. But to be quite honest, you basically go to that map, click the details of the loaner site, and you always want to make sure, I put it in every single line, was to call to check for gear availability. The last thing you want to do is go there July long weekend, try and drive all the way to go to a location, and everyone's had the same idea as you, and all the gear is already been borrowed. So I want to make sure that everyone calls in advance, drive to the site, you get the fishing gear, and you just sign out a little sign out sheet that we do, which is the main purpose for doing the sign up forms. One is obviously to make sure we get our equipment back, because of course we're a nonprofit, we can't subsidize losses all the time. But at the same point, it also helps us get that program value. So there's a bit of data that we get back from each of those sign out forms, and when we collect those at the end of the year, I tabulate them in my final report to our program sponsors to help them give that true value to the program, and it helps us keep our sponsorship and maintain building this really, really great program. So that's all that we need to do. Fill out the form, go fishing, come back, and just drop the equipment off at the gatehouse staff.
Now, if we wanted to give a shout out to some of your sponsors, because let's face it, if it isn't for volunteers, folks like you that have, that beating heart that wants to keep initiatives like this alive, who can we, if we want to purchase something to help bolster some of the sponsors that look after this kind of initiative, who are they?
I'll start off with our key sponsors, of course, is the Ontario Federation of Anglers and Hunters. They make sure that I'm available all year round to be steering the ship and steering the program. We have our title sponsor is Ontario Power Generation, who basically quite literally cut us a check and helps it be able for us to, help promotion, help us get, buy paper products and all those different materials that have to help administrate this program. We would not be able to do it without them. And in turn, they also help us share the water safety message that we want to help people keep stay clear and stay safe of hydroelectric dams and stations. It really is the backbone that helps us get this program going. But in addition to that, we also have a lot of sponsors who help us with product, and that being Lucky Strike, which is here in town in Peterborough. They're such a great family-run organization or family-run company that we basically call them up and say, here's what we want to do for a video series this year. Can you give me these lures, these packages to help us create some other promotional packages? And he says, yep, sure. What date do you need to buy? Like, it's really, really great. We also get a lot of great gear from Shimano. They help us with a lot of our rod supplies. So half of the rods that will be at any of our loaner sites are Shimano branded rods, and half of the equipment as well is Rapala branded. So we try and keep it half and half, because they're both very, very dedicated sponsors who also supply us with a lot of our swag that we do give away for our giveaways. So we have a lot of every month for people who send in those photos. We have swag for that as well. We have our 12 days of Tackle Share giveaways at Christmas time, which is probably the most amount of videos I put out in a very short period of time. 12 in 12 days is a lot, but they really help us get these really great packages to give out to a lot of new anglers or experienced anglers, and give them that equipment they need to help get organized, get out onto the ice and whatnot, as well as Mr. Twister, Eagle Claw, and Suffix, and they all those terminal tackle like hooks, sinkers, bobbers, the actual plastics, so the twister tails, and the line for the program. So we wouldn't be able to feasibly put this program together if we had it all in dollar value. A lot of it is in-kind product, and those sponsors have been key sponsors for many, many years. It's not like we don't have a lot of sponsors coming on and off every year. It's great to have long-term invested sponsors that are really trying to make sure that we have equipment at those loaner sites every single year.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Awesome.
Wow.
Well, Yvonne, any other last questions before we let this workhorse go on her merry way?
No, I don't have any questions. I'm just surprised we didn't have a surprise guest appearance from one of your kids, because they're.
I kicked them out. I think no, Ray took them. I think they're looking for suckers to see if the suckers are running yet. So I think that was a good way to get them out of the house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Alesha
Scotty,
is
her
running a
kids are
kids share
fearless.
program. I like it. I like the kids share program going on right now at Alesha's house.
Yeah, just like ship them off to someone else's.
get
Yeah,
it.
no.
Yeah. Right on.
So yeah, if anybody hasn't already done so, if you don't mind, check out our YouTube channel. We've got lots of videos coming up. We just finished our ice fishing. I just released our last ice fishing video pretty late, so it landed yesterday when it was like the hottest day so far this year. But it was, I just had to get it out before we started off with our summer series stuff. Oh, and if you don't mind me mentioning one more thing, with the fish along with tackle share videos, we have 2 job postings that are up right now that are going to be going until the end of April, that we're looking for 2 really dedicated individuals that are willing to join the team, that would want to basically spend their time outside the summer fishing and doing educational fishing videos. So if anybody wants to check out those job postings, they will be on ofah.org/jobs. I don't know if I can slip links here into the chat, but
well, I'll tell you what, Steve has done a fantastic job, feverishly.
I see that.
Yeah, as many of the links as possible can. So let's just say this: if you go to the main page, I'm sure you'll be able to find it in the menu.
The jobs is on the OFH page, but that's okay. I'll send it on my Facebook page today. I'll recycle the post, I think.
Right on. Well, yeah, and Steve, you've done a fantastic job trying to keep up, dude. Can't thank you enough, and of course, can't thank you enough, Yvonne, for bringing Alesha and of course all these wonderful ladies, these beauties as I call them, to our CFN Live on Ladies Night, because as I said, what it does is it makes us realize that we don't work as hard as maybe some. No, I'm just kidding.
For the record, this is my job. Yvonne does that on her side gig. That's what I think she should be getting credit for, because this is actually my occupation, but that is not hers. So she does a lot of extra above and beyond. So there's where the hard work is.
Amen to that. I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, ladies, thanks so much for joining us as you do, and we look forward to every month on our Ladies Night event. And again, Yvonne, for all you do, hats off to you. Really appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
Right on.
Yeah.
The panel's coming up next.
Alesha.
Thanks, Alesha.
No
the
problem.
panel's coming up next, right after a word from our sponsor.
When it comes to Canadian food, we've got your back with flavors like lemon pepper, beer batter, campfire barbecue, lemon pepper dill, garlic butter and chives, and crispy Cajun. We've got a mix for every meal. Whether you're serving East Coast shrimp, West Coast salmon, succulent walleye, chicken wings, or veggies, we've got you covered. Coat your food in outdoor flavors. Available online or at these fine retailers.
Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
Things are good.
Right on.
Things are good.
Hey,
Hello.
Does anybody have a guess on what that cat? Now I know. Sorry, Lawrence. I apologize. But that catfish. Either of you 3 have a guess on what that weight is?
Honestly, man.
87.
88.
Is it closest without going over? Can I say $1? Is that honestly, of all the fish out there, and I think there's a few folks that are on the chat tonight, catfish are one of the hardest fish to guess. They're so girthy that I have caught catfish that are, let's say, 30 inches, and they range in weight from, these are channel cats, not a blue cat, but a 30-inch channel cat can range in weight from something like 8 pounds to like 12 pounds. It's incredible. And so the longer you get, the bigger the cat, the more variable, right? So
It's like us old guys.
yeah, kind of. Like so,
Dinner or after dinner?
I didn't cheat, Scotty. I haven't looked in the comments. I know you gave a couple hints during it, but I'm with these guys. I'm at like that 80 pound class at least.
Well, I'll tell you what. You're very, very close. Very good guess.
Of course, we're highly tuned pros.
I can tell. You know, I am honored. I am not worthy, and I'm honored to have you guys here every Monday as you guys come in with big smiles and a whole bunch of information, and you just force feed us fishing 101, and we can't thank you enough. Now, Lawrence, you have some fishing news that you need to bring us up to date with?
Well, I was just looking here at this parliamentary report on DFO, and no offense to people who work for DFO, but they're just saying, they have 47 recommendations on how to make sure the work they do around assessing fish stocks and setting limits is transparent, it's well funded, it includes information from indigenous and other fishers and scientists, and that it's released in ways that people understand it, and there's no sort of all the information comes out. That's really all they're asking is, look, you're the scientists that make these decisions, talk about how you came to those decisions, show us the proof. It's all about, if you're going to slow things down or cut back, it's all about precautionary principles, right? And that's based on science. So show us the science. We see the entire Federation of Anglers and Hunters and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry do it at the provincial level. We have the FM tables, and all the science is presented. All the science is presented. Everyone is educated. You go down in the United States, you have these various commissions and the scientists from NOAA work with the recreational and commercial fishers. All the science is presented. Decisions are taken collaboratively based on the science, based on what's available and what the needs are. And people are much more willing to take conservation measures when they understand what the reality is. And that's what they're saying to DFO. Look, we know you're responsible for promoting the fishing industry in Canada and around the world, but first and foremost, it has to be done sustainably, and you have to prove to us that it's being done sustainably. It's an interesting report. They're getting thousands and thousands of people writing into DFO saying, "Look, make this happen." There's no more playing politics with this sort of thing.
100%. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Jay, you've been busy. Again, we live vicariously through you. You were out enjoying some of that wonderful weather this past weekend and a little bit of last week. Tell us what some of the things that you saw, some of the things that you learned.
Oh, geez. Well, I can say honestly that this weather the last week has been something else, and we were out crappie fishing. I think we've been out 3 times in the past week, actually. So we were out last weekend. Water temps were around 48 to 49 in some of the local channels, and literally within a week the same channels were 62 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Yeah, like it's amazing how fast it's warmed up. And even the main lake, it's still, it depends on winds and things like that where the warm water is being pushed around this time of year. Just so folks know, like, warm water is really a lot lighter than cold water. So as that water warms on the surface, the winds will push it around. And so sometimes even in certain canals, if you're fishing like for crappie, like we were, some canals will actually will warm up quicker because there's a little more wind pushing that water in there. But at the end of the day, what's incredible is how warm things have gotten. I've actually seen a lot of dead fish, actually, Scotty. And I was doing some reading and chatting with some colleagues about it. And there's some science out there that supports that when you get sudden increases in temperature in the spring, so not just winter kill, that's been, because we hardly had ice down here this year, but sudden warm water in the spring, when you have a lot of fish that are stressed from that winter period, even though there wasn't ice, it's still a stressful time. There's not a lot of food and fish have to just survive. And I've actually seen a lot of fish, not an alarming number, but similar to what you'd see after ice out, and I think it's from all these rapidly warming water temperatures. I saw carp on the move, but what's interesting though, guys, is, and maybe I'll raise it to you guys, is, like some of the fishing, like right now, that's great temperatures for crappie, and we caught a few crappie, but the crappie really haven't been like, I thought they were going to be on. And I'm starting to think that photo period, which which a lot of us talk about, is photo period is length of day, and that's a driver for some of these annual migrations, whether you be a steelhead or a walleye or maybe even a crappie. And I wonder if we're still into some shorter days, so things just aren't quite clicking yet with some of these species. What do you guys think of that?
Jim, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'd be 100% on that. I mean, just because it warms up the fish, they just can't immediately react.
Yeah.
They have a temperature thing they have to go through. And another thing a lot of people don't realize, I'm talking to guys here fishing not far from here, and guy says to me, "Oh, they're all kidding, they all spawned." And I said, they don't understand that they're not spawning now. This is them just sort of out, flexing their fins, looking for a snack, that type of thing, swimming around some warm water. I was watching fish behind the house here the other day. I had a school of crappies right at the end of the dock. There was like 15 of them. Now, they weren't big, but you could see them plain as day. Yeah. And I did everything I knew how to do, and they just sat there looking at me like, it's not time yet. Don't put that in front of us. I've yet to catch one. Yep. I caught a little largemouth, and I caught a couple of pike. I got bit off a couple of times on teeny little weeny things. And they're just eating it and swimming around. They're not, the water's still, they have to, they have to progress with the temperature. Yes. I know, Jay, you understand this with a science background more, but they're not, they can't just say, okay, I spawn when it's 65 degrees. It's 65 degrees. Come on, eggs, where are you? Everything has to move its way along. And I think this is an excellent year for that. You guys have heard me mention about the ice out April 3rd, 1963 or something that's written on the drawer here in the vanity that faces the lake. So somebody was obviously sitting there, looked out the window and said the ice is gone, and wrote it on the side of the drawer. So I talked to one of the ladies who actually lived in this house, and she told me, "Oh, that was really, really, that was really late." Well, this year it was like 10th or 11th. Last year I got my memories from Facebook the other day, and it showed me saying that half the ice is still there, and that was on the 14th it showed, and it was gone here this year. But a funny thing here this year, and even Tammy noticed it, she said to me, "Did the ice not go away awful fast?" I said, "Well, one day I would have bet $50 I could have walked across it, and the next afternoon it was gone." Like it was reduced to slush floating around whichever way the wind went, and then later that afternoon it was like 28 degrees and it was gone. Like, we had a couple of days here that were 30 and 31.
Yeah.
And dead calm. Glass calm.
100%. And as Sonia said, right now they don't necessarily need a lot of energy. They don't need a requirement of a lot of sustenance because they're not expending a lot of energy. And
they're about to go.
They're about to go, and when that spawn happens, that's when it just goes.
Well, I mean, when they come in here, the only reason they're here is to eat. They just haven't quite got there yet. 100%. I would think in the next day or two, but see, it cooled off.
Yeah.
It was 11 here this morning. At noon, it was 6.
Yeah.
It was snowing here at supper time, a wet snow shower. Yeah. So it got down to I had to drive Trevor over to a friend's house, and I came back with Stephanie. And literally it went from like 6 degrees to 3 degrees and snow showers.
Whoa.
So like this front that we had come through is just incredible how, and for anyone that knows crappie and me have a love and hate relationship. When there's a cold front, you think they're hard to catch on a good day. You wait till there's a cold front. You might as well just go sit and watch CFN reruns is what you should be doing. And don't be going any crappie fishing. Those, honestly, I've not, other than probably a Florida largemouth, not that I know a lot about that species, but a Florida largemouth, there's probably not a moodier fish out there when it comes to temperature swings than a black crappie or a white crappie. They will just shut down for days, and looking at the temperature this week, they probably won't get moving again until the weekend. That's how sensitive they are. It's amazing.
I mean, I slip bobbered things that were half an inch long total.
Yeah.
On 3-pound test. Ice fish,
and they're not even looking at it.
And it's like they're all, when you try to give the dog something to eat and it's not going to eat it and it does this, I swear to God, I saw one look at me and go, like, I'm sitting there, they're like, they're right there, right? They just, if they're not, they're not gonna, if they're not ready to eat, they're not ready to eat. But I'll guarantee you, a couple more degrees down here, and you'll have to beat them off with a stick.
Okay, so we always talk about how cold fronts affect the feeding of fish. How does it affect the spawn? Something that I've always wanted to know, but never really got an answer. And you can Google it. It does. There's not a lot of explanation. But Jay, in your opinion, Lawrence, even you, Jim, how does a cold front? How do these fluctuations in temperature affect the spawn?
It'll mess them up big time if it's enough.
Yeah.
I've watched it right in the backyard here. Seen bass on beds, already laid their eggs, and it gets real cold, gone. They abandon the nest. They're gone. Now
you see that with the floods too, right? When there's a big flood, they'll give up the spawn and they'll try it again 2-4 weeks later.
Yeah. Like I've even seen, like I've experienced it, and I'm sure you guys have too, where like smallmouth bass, once they've spawned, like they won't leave their nest and they'll die. They will actually die protecting their nest, like if it's a sudden temperature swing. So, but the question about smelt, that's an interesting question. Yeah. So smelts are kind of a cooler cold water species, right? And I'm going to guess that a cold front this time of year, like I think it depends on where they are and what's going on. I think a bigger driver for them is once the conditions are right, they'll keep doing their business. But a lot of times now, if it's a lake smelt, so I know it's the same smelt species, but in a lake, a lot of that spawning behavior is driven by wind patterns. And so wind pushing against the shore, creating a good area for spawning. In a river, it's different. It's water level, right? So I think the cold front's not as important as maintaining the conditions of whether it's a wind blowing up against the shore or whether it's current. Because if you get a sudden rain, that's going to disperse those fish into different areas if rain is affecting the water level. And then as the water level drops, those fish might come back to where they are. The thing about smelt, though, is they're kind of like crappie in that they're in and they're out. So they spawn and they're done in literally days.
Well, we went up to try to get some on Gold Lake on the weekend, and we didn't get any. And I think it had something to do exactly that. It's been hot. It was hot for a week. All the ice is gone, and but the water levels are really high. And people were saying, the locals were saying that it's too soon. It's not. They're not there yet. The water levels are too high. So maybe it is pushing that warm water over to the other side of the lake, and the smelt went over to the other side of the lake and left the cold side of the lake where we were empty. But nothing.
It's interesting you say that, Lawrence, because I talk about Jay and I talk about Lake Erie, and of course those westerly winds that blow all that warm water that starts to warm up a lot quicker at the beginning of the year. Obviously, your forage base is going to migrate towards that warmer water, which you would think would bring just scads of walleye with them. And the last couple of years, especially, you really haven't seen that. You haven't seen that migration of walleye to the eastern end of Lake Erie like you would think. But one thing I will say when it comes to walleye and cold fronts and the spawn, it has nothing to do with it. It has no effect whatsoever. It's all about water temperature. As soon as that water temperature hits, it doesn't matter if it's a moon or the sun out, those walleye are going to spawn.
Because they don't make nests.
That's right, 100%. Right.
But it's funny you're saying that they chase the bait. I have some friends who do research on the walleye population in Hamilton Harbor. And the prey in that harbor will move from one side to the other twice a day, depending on the wind. So the walleye will be literally shifting from one end of the harbor to the other twice a day, just following the prey fish.
You're 100% right, Lawrence. 100% right. And you would think the same with Lake Erie. I'm just assuming there's just so much forage for them to eat that they don't have to.
Lake Erie's just too big, too.
Yeah.
I mean, like they're not going to swim 30 miles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Back and forth across the lake. Like, we talk about, people always say, well, fish the windy shore, it blows all the bait fish up on the windy shore. Well, that doesn't happen. All the bait fish don't get blown across the lake because the wind's blowing.
No, not that fast. It takes 2-3 days, right, for that to set up.
And they don't get blown. Like, they don't all get blown. Like they're in the water. They're not in the air. they don't get blown across. You know what I mean? It's
Oh, I think in Hamilton Harbor, it's just because it's so shallow that the
Yeah.
warm water, when the warm water moves, the fish move with it.
yeah,
And-
it's
and-
small too.
I'll throw a cog in there. I'll throw a cog in that hypothesis. So Hamilton Harbor is over 150 feet deep. It's actually just a mimic of Lake Ontario. Like the harbor
Okay.
itself is an incredibly deep harbor. Like it's surprisingly how much it mimics Lake Ontario or other oligotrophic lakes. And so what I've seen in the harbor is the fish will move at certain times of the year to seek out any warm water that they can. And this goes back to, like, we've talked about this with gizzard shad, and gizzard shad are actually one of the main forage in Hamilton Harbor. And especially during those bumper seasons, so spring and fall, when, you know, a difference of a few degrees can be all that shad wants. And so a good example is the west end of the harbor in Hamilton Harbor is, it's not so much shallower. There's a bit of shallow water back there. That's where Coots Paradise and Spencer Creek flows in. But that's where you'll get, it's sheltered there because of the escarpment. The escarpment, part of the escarpment's right there. So as a lot of our winds are southerly, southwest or south or west or westerly winds, even a bit northwesterly, that area of the harbor is always protected. And then on the Burlington side of the bay, which is the opposite from all the industry side, on the Burlington side, it's also very high up there, so it's protected from the winds. And so, but you are right, Lawrence, the fish will move, you know, those predatory walleye, because they're just like Bay of Quinte walleye. They school up and they just do like laps. They're constantly moving around that bay, but they'll follow the shad along the west shore and that north shore because it's protected. And I think the shad are just it's probably a bit of forage for the shad, but because where the warmer water is where the plankton will be for them to feed on, because they're planktivoric, and then the walleye are following the shad. That's my guess. But the middle of Hamilton Harbor is really like a small oligotrophic lake where it's over,
The dead
over
zone.
150 feet deep. Yeah.
Hey, how big are those gizzard shad?
Oh, Jimmy, I can tell you once going down to the Bay of Quinte, and I saw the tail of a fish sticking out of a 12-pound walleye, and I pulled that fish out, and it was a gizzard shad that was over 2 pounds.
Wow.
So they'll get to be 17 or 18 inches long, some of the gizzard shad. A lot of the average size are probably in that sort of 4 to 7 inch range, but they get big. And people don't, when they see them that size, I get lots of reports at work. They send them to me and they're like, you know, what is this thing? I'm like, that's a shad.
Yeah.
But they're used to seeing like, you know, like little shad imitating baits that we use all the time, right? They're not used to these like giant, you know, but hence why there's giant swim baits out there on the market, right? There are shad that get to be 12 and 18 inches long.
100%.
Oh, cool.
Jim, Just Fishing Magazine, any updates on that?
It's all done. It's at the website. They just gotta put it all up and make sure there's no boo-boos. So I was hoping to hear something this afternoon, but I guess it'll be tomorrow now.
So we're looking forward to that announcement. But again, if you were looking for the next edition, it is
You
close.
can always go have a look at the ice fishing one. There's still lots of good information in there. So hey, I got a picture of a guy the other day sent me a picture of him sliding a walleye down the hole. He says to me, it's long from over up here. It's not even, hasn't even melted at the shore. He showed me at the shore, took a couple of pictures, not even began to melt.
Well, it's funny you say that because, of course, you know, Bill Landry, who is an active CFNer out in Saskatchewan, and I asked him, what's your ice like? Is it still pretty solid? And now back when it was a lot warmer, early part of last week, of course, there was lots of slush. But I would imagine with this cold front that's gone through, it's hardened up. But he still has 36 inches of ice, which is just
Wow.
It was hard to believe.
Yeah, I saw a buddy of mine on Lake Superior the other day. Sent me a video of them with the skidoo, and they had to drive real slow because they were in this much water. And I said, that's getting tricky. Eh? He said, well, there's still 30 inches of black ice under us.
Incredible.
You know, so, but I mean, that's what it is out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like it goes away earlier some years, later other years. But you know, I mean, this doesn't exactly. You know, people say it's such an early spring, but it's it's. I think we just got a few warm days. I was shocked when I went out this morning, Phil. Our silver maple tree, they drop those big red casings on the buds.
Yeah.
They were all over my truck and on the ground, and I don't believe I've ever seen this early. But once again, I've only lived here for 7 years now. And like I always like to say, there's nothing worse than a one-man survey.
100%. And any of you that suffer from allergies, the last couple of days was absolutely brutal.
Yep.
You could tell.
Morning I was fine.
Yeah, you could tell the pollen. Now today with the wind and of course the damp weather and the cold temperatures, that pollen count has dropped dramatically. So folks are feeling some relief, but it only took a couple days for that pollen to start filling the air and people start swelling up and oozing out all kinds of.
I got my box of Benadryl.
Yeah, absolutely. Lawrence, what's your next journey? Where do we get to see you? In the coming weeks, what are you looking forward to fishing?
Well, we got the Bluefish News just came out today for the April 17th. So check that out at bluefishcanada.ca. That'll be up there in a day or two, or subscribe, get that. We've got some, we interviewed just recently, and that's came out. Trout Unlimited Niagara chapter has been doing a thing called Bring Back the Brookies on 12 Mile Creek there. And it's really interesting, the shoreline restoration they're doing. And you might want to find out, they're putting all their information on the web, videos on how to, they realize that the survival of the trout in these rivers is dependent on what's on the shore. And if you don't take care of the shorelines, make sure you have the bushes and trees and shade there, the trout won't survive. So they're really embracing that. But we've got some interesting interviews coming up later this week that'll be out in the next news. I don't want to give too much away, but finally, you guys, there's going to be a way to report fish kills across Canada in a real legitimate way. So you stay tuned for more information about that. I'm super excited. I'm talking to one of the organization government people that are behind that project that just got recently launched. So stay tuned for more information about that. I'm super pumped.
Cool.
Now, when it comes to 12 Mile Creek, and Jay, I don't know if you fish that area, but I know I've spent a little bit of time. I'm going to assume that there's been studies that have been conducted that would suggest that water is going to be cold enough for brookies. Every time go ahead.
So all along the escarpment, Scotty, so the Niagara Escarpment is a great source of groundwater, and there are areas that can sustain brook trout. And I know one of the founding members of that chapter, Lawrence, is Ian Smith, I believe.
Yeah.
And Ian is an instructor at Niagara College in their ecosystems program. And he's an engineer by trade, or like an engineering consultant by trade, but he loves fish and fishing. And I actually had the pleasure of working with him many years ago on a project with grass pickerel. And these are the pickerel that Jim loves, not those fake walleye pickerel that we always joke about, right? And the Niagara area has a lot of grass pickerel in it. And why they do well is grass pickerel like actually cool water, but they like more swampy, low-lying areas, not flowing water like brook trout. But there are areas where the brook trout do very well along the Niagara Escarpment. Now, we're not talking. These aren't Gord Ellis 8-pound and 9-pound Nipigon brook trout.
10 inch.
These are 8 to 10 inch brook trout. These are like, we like to, around here, we target them and we call them unicorns. We know they don't get really big, but to catch brook trout, any brook trout in Southern Ontario these days is pretty cool because of the pressures they're under. So the work that they're doing on that 12 Mile Creek, Scotty, it's totally worth the time, I feel, to protect brook trout and enhance their habitat. But yeah, the habitat is there, but it needs a little help, and that's what they're doing with Trout Unlimited. So Lawrence,
Jason,
I look forward to hearing about it.
Is this stuff that we've done that screwed it up?
Yeah, it's a lot of what we've done, Jimmy. Like it's not just like big picture stuff, like changes in weather patterns and stuff. It's right on the ground stuff, like a lot of impacts from clearing the land, too much agriculture, too much pavement, where we've lost the ability for water to infiltrate the ground and then filter itself, where it just rushes in. So not only have we not causes pollution, but paving the ground. So we're talking parking lots, subdivisions, like not just pavement, but asphalt roofs, for example, right? Just covering the ground so nature can't do its thing, it causes these high flow events in these small systems that literally flush them out. And it also just warms up their water. And there's salt issues. Like, we could go on and on. So
she said one of the big things was improperly installed culverts and bridges. If you don't dig them down deep enough, once you're into the summer, they just become just rock gardens in these culverts and bridges, and nothing can get through. The fish can't get through, the water can't flow through. So then you impede the flow of the river, which means it's slowing down and warming up. That's just simple things like that, right? That we don't think about.
Agreed. Perched culverts is a big problem on small streams where little trout. So a perched culvert, for all the listeners, is a perched culvert is a culvert where the bottom of the culvert doesn't meet the stream bed, so you get a little waterfall. But if that little waterfall, those fish can't jump that waterfall. Not all the fish can. So a culvert properly installed where you have a pipe should be installed into the stream bed, so the stream is always in the culvert. But if the bottom of that culvert is above the stream water line, it gets perched. And perched culverts can happen over time. And you'll see there's a big trend in the last couple decades where they've been pushing for, and it's going to sound to those who work on roads, it sounds like total overkill, but they want huge culverts for small streams. But they do that to avoid these problems for fish and fish habitat. Like we can't get around with a 12-inch culvert anymore. Now it's got to be like a 12-foot culvert. And that's an expensive culvert. Like I'm using two kind of arbitrary numbers here. I'm not sure if that's exactly the spec, but the new recommendations are making huge culverts, but that's also a huge cost to municipalities and other organizations, right? So
yeah, it's funny you should mention that. There was a thing they posted on the township website here, and it showed them putting a big steel rod through a culvert, attaching it to a tire on a chain.
Yeah.
Putting the tire through to clean out, and all of a sudden this big circle of mud comes out. Yeah. About 30 seconds after, here comes a little bit of water. Mind, it was just a little bit because it was in the middle of the summer. Everything's bone dry, you know. But it was really cool to watch that cleaning the culvert.
On that note, Jim, so we're talking about drains, right? So, and that happens a lot in agricultural areas where you get a lot of runoff from the fields, and the runoff clogs the drains. So what a lot of farmers have started doing is actually just, okay, well, we won't have open drains anymore. We're going to cover them over. So they're taking their tile drains and we're tiling the drainage under the ground so we can plant crops over those drains. Well, what's happening is you're enclosing in the stream. You're closing them over. And so even if there weren't fish there before, all these little small tributaries that feed into the main tributary, you're losing all that interaction where needed nutrients for the bugs and for the plankton. That's not happening anymore. So by tiling our fields to improve drainage for agriculture, we're having an impact on the fish too. So, and again, brook trout suffer the most because they're in the smallest systems in the headwaters, typically where we have that groundwater coming in, but that's where a lot of the agriculture is happening too. So,
and really, at the end of the day, what we should be doing is applauding the efforts of this kind of work and rehabilitation. Because at the end of the day, it's not just necessarily benefiting the brook trout; it's benefiting all species. So, again, if you're not hung up on brook trout, they may not be your favorite fish. Trust me, they're doing work for all species.
They're the canary in the coal mine, Scotty, when it comes to fish in Southern Ontario. They truly are. They truly
so
are.
We're screwed then.
Yeah. I'm going to get you a pet brook trout, Jamie. We're going to call him Brookie. And you can, we got to make you got to keep him happy. It's like the old, when you were in like health class in like grade 7 and they give you an egg to take care of. I'm going to give you a brook trout, and you got to take care of the brook trout just like a little egg. You got to make sure it lives.
I swaddle them and have
That's right.
Breakfast.
Yeah.
Breakfast.
I can bring them down, let them play with the largemouth at the end of the dock.
Oh yeah, that's don't walk your brook trout over past Larry the largemouth house. That's not a good idea, man.
Actually,
that's not a good idea.
It was really funny. A couple of years ago, I went to do a kids thing, and I remember saying to Tammy, I said, "See in the middle of that field all that grass?" She says, "Yeah." I said, "In the middle of that field, running through there's a creek." you can't see it. There used to be all little willow trees and everything, but it's all gone, and yet it's not farmed or anything. It's just Mother Nature doing her thing. It's all everything's fallen down and rotted. This is like 20 years ago, and I used to go once in a while with my buddy Larry, and we'd go there with a little spinning rod and 4-pound test line that had a little bobber and put on those little red worms and the little number 10 hook, and we'd catch brook trout that were this big, and we just catch them and unhook them and throw them back in. They were, but whenever you caught one and you held it, it was ice cold.
Yeah.
The water was really, really cold. That was one of the first things I noticed. And this is a long time ago. I still don't know anything about brook trout. I learned more today here in 15 minutes, but it's just not something.
If you're up in Southern Ontario, that's pretty much all you got when the steelhead and the salmon are running. It's brook trout, right? Because there's not a lot of lakes in Southern Ontario.
Put that aquarium back in the garage.
Now, Jim, I'm not 100% sure if it's completely sunk in, of course, but your Hall of Fame induction was something truly that it didn't take us by surprise by any means, but we were all honored to see someone like yourself who's dedicated yourself to this industry and, of course, furthering the passion of angling. I have to get you to speak on behalf of what happened to Bob Izumi I think it was just this past week, where he got he became an honorary member of the Parliamentary Outdoor Caucus.
This is it. People don't realize the stuff that's done behind the scenes. This is something that was spearheaded by Phil Morlock years ago when he brought them together, and it's pretty well. I was talking to some guys that were at that, and I said, is there people from all parties show up? And I'm not making any kind of a political statement here, but he said to me, well, there was people from all the parties except the NDP.
Interesting.
No, yeah, all there. But the important thing was that they have a fisherman now as an honorary member, and Bob will represent us really, really well because he did it. He's not just there talking about fishing; he did it.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing, is having people that have been involved when you want to talk about that. And we did things years ago where we brought politicians out to fish in the Ottawa River, and I had a couple of guys. It was really funny too, because I had one guy from the Liberals and one guy from the Conservatives in the boat, and they had a great time together. You know what I mean? There was the fact, talking and explaining to them about fishing. They knew nothing about it. They all caught their first largemouth. One of them caught a largemouth that was almost 5 pounds.
Whoa.
So that was got it on a top water on a buzz bait. And it was one of those ones you don't even know it's eating the lure. There's just a little ripple on the surface. It just comes up and takes it down real slow, eh? And all of a sudden the rod's buckled over, and I told him, I said, set the hook. He said, what does that mean? He looks at me and goes, what does that mean? The other guy said, give the rod a jerk. So we got in the boat, though. We hooked it. It ate the buzzbait. It had it good. But these guys were absolutely blown away with the time that they had in the boat. They'd never been fishing, and they were absolutely blown away with it. But this is what Phil does: is he gets these people involved in it to sit down and talk. And you don't know how many things people don't realize when they talk about fishing. And that I've been privy to some stuff that's gone on over the years. And a lot of people don't realize how close we come off and on to losing our right to fish. There's people out there that don't want you fishing, hunting. God forbid you go trapping and kill an animal. And they're out there and they're just waiting their opportunity. When we talk about these marine protected areas, these things are real. They exist in California. Nobody knows why they're there. They can't explain, why are we not allowed to go there? Well, we've protected one of the healthiest areas. Well, and Morlock always says, well, why are we protecting the healthiest areas? Maybe we should be doing something to protect the areas that need help. And that's always been their whole claim with these things. They just canceled the Chinook fishing for the whole California coastline this year. Yeah, there's no more Chinook fishing this year. The North Shore of Lake Ontario. That you would, and this isn't just fishing. This is like access. You wouldn't be able to go kayak. You wouldn't. The creek. I mean, it's real. There's people out there that are trying to do this, and just like when they wanted the bit about the worms, you couldn't use a worm for bait because it was cruelty to animals. I don't know. I understand, yeah, sure, sticking a hook in a worm, it's a different thing. But I tell you, we all.
I think we're getting less and less on that in Canada, though. I think the environmental groups realize that they went out on a limb 10 years ago and they lost credibility.
Yeah, but that was the second time they went on the limb, Lawrence.
Yeah, but
you remember back when they
they understand that, with 6 million licensed anglers in Canada, they need allies. If they're going to get anything done, from a conservation or protection basis, they need to include people and be less sort of combative and judgmental. And I see there's more of a trend in that happening. Bluefish Canada, we work a lot with groups that wouldn't talk to us 10 years ago. And now they're coming to us and said, Lawrence, our volunteers, our families, the kids, they want to know how to fish, and we give them the content to put in on their websites and on their apps. So that, and it's happening. It's happening more and more. There's more, that there's power in partnerships, and you can get more done if you work together. I don't think, 10 years ago, I used to talk to a lot of these groups and people would say to me on the slide, Lawrence, I love fishing and, I actually hunt, but I can't say any of that in front of my organization and promote any of that. And now that's not the case. They realize it's a way of connecting to nature, and you can do it in a sustainable way. And the more ways we do that, the better.
That's the ones that are talking to you. It's not the ones.
Oh yeah, no, there's some that don't. There's still some that don't. Trust me about that. And there's still some that tell me, we love what you're doing, Lawrence, but we can't ever have any sort of official partnership with Bluefish Canada because we'll lose our funders.
Yeah.
Wow. We'll lose our funders.
What was the guy's name? The pill bottle guy?
Who?
The guy that invented the pill bottle that put all the money behind it, stopping the bear hunt and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, that was what was that? They regretted that. They regret that guy. They came out against the spring bear hunt and they realized they did it. That was a big boner. That was a huge mistake. And they came out, they're still apologizing for that one. Yeah, I can't remember the name of that. It's a lot of money.
Just like when Walter gave the money to the World Wildlife Fund. And he turned around, he gave it to the World Wildlife Fund. They were supposed to use it for some project. And they bought full page ads in the Toronto Star with the money against sport fishing, how it hurt, fishing.
They drive me nuts. Those guys drive me nuts. They say the whole world's coming to an end. We're killing all the fish, but they don't look at what's going on in North America. They look at what's going on in undeveloped countries where there's extreme poverty. And then they say that's what's happening all over the world. It's not, but they raise money that way. They raise money by claiming that the whole world's going to hell.
And they're sneaky about it too.
Oh yeah.
Because these marine protected areas that they want to do in Canada, the ones that Morlock told me that were of most concern were up in Hudson Bay.
Yeah,
who's in Hudson Bay to know what's going on?
Bunch of belugas.
Two narwhals.
Narwhals. The narwhals are protesting. They got their signs on their tooth.
Bring back the fishing.
It's all good though.
Oh, it's a work in progress.
That's
well,
awesome.
You know what though, guys? Like overall, one thing that we have to be concerned about is, we've seen a little bit of an influx in participation in angling since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we're back to, use air quotes, normal, angling participation is still a problem.
Oh yeah,
it's not like it was years ago. Like we went through a little blip where it was positive, like a positive blip. But I think long term, it's still on the slide, and we have a lot of work to do.
Oh, it'll still back off. I mean, the number of fishing rods that are for sale. A buddy of mine said that to me the other day. The number of stuff that says like barely used,
Yeah.
And they're $150 rods and reels. That's all the stuff that people bought to go fish during COVID, and it's all going to go.
Pure fishing is on the verge of bankruptcy. Pure fishing is on the verge of bankruptcy. They've got too much inventory. They can't move it. They bought Plano for a big price tag 2 years ago. They bought a couple other companies. They've overextended themselves, and their stock has been totally downgraded to the point where it's considered now potential bankruptcy. And pure fishing is huge. It's huge.
It's scary for our industry.
Yeah. See, and the thing about pure fishing too is that they're, a lot of companies have gone this way. They're owned by private equity firms, right? So at the end of the day, these companies are bought and sold fairly regularly, and we could, and there's very few major fishing companies out there that aren't part of that private equity sort of makeup, where there's a lot of companies brought in together and they're managed in a way that, they're still good people behind the scenes. But I think that there's a lot of investors who are just interested in, obviously making a dollar.
Flipping
and so
it.
when things start to slide, things get, shoved around. I think with pure fishing, I'm speculating, but the purchase of Plano during COVID, which is Plano is a huge company, in fishing wise. It's not as big as others, but it's big. That's a hard one to fund during a pandemic. And I think that all the companies are still, there's inventory now, but we got to get selling. And I think the inventory is piled up because aren't as many people are fishing right now. I really think so it's hard to balance that. You got to balance your inventory with your sales. And right now, for some companies, that's been hard to do.
Well, people are thinking, they're worried about, these expenditures and think, well, do I really need that right now? And, as inventory's topping up, man, the warehouses are filling up and numbers are going down a bit. So if they overextended themselves thinking it was going to just keep flying off the shelf like it was for the last couple of years, now they've got inventory issues, in terms of too much.
Well, and I have to say, then I have to ask the question, what happened? Because right after COVID was done, and being a part of Shimano, we know there was an influx of buying. I mean, you literally couldn't find anything on shelves. Yes, supply chain had a lot to do with it. But to Sonia's point, like right after COVID was done, it was record sales. I remember at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show, like everything was off the shelves. It was gone. What changed in 2 years?
I don't know. There's lots of stock out there now. Like you go to any store now, and you guys probably noticed this, like when you walk into a Fishing World or a Gagnon's or a Tackle Depot, I always look at the reel counter. That's the big one for me, because I can look on the wall and be like, I can see all the different brands and I can tell what's moving and what's not just by what's on the wall. And for a couple of years, there was not much back there, but now these stores are fully stocked, and I worry that. And how do you forecast this? This is kind of where I'm going with this. How do you forecast those sales? Because there was such a bias during COVID. Now that we're back to normal, and in fact, it could be. Now, there's a couple things at play here. One is we're going to be back to normal, and some folks are not going to be taking up their fishing rods like they were during COVID. But two, the other side of this that's been proven, and I'm curious how this will play out. During recessions, which we're kind of we're on that slide right now, right? During recessions, fishing was always something that people could get involved with.
100%.
And it's been shown through time, and so I think fishing overall, we've gone down from COVID, but I think we're going to see that might stabilize with this recession that's going on right now, but
that'd be good.
We'll see. Yeah. So, and there's actually some reports coming out about participation in angling in 2020 that the province of Ontario did that might shed some light on that. So
I think we're just going to have better deals coming out, like boat prices, truck prices, RV prices. Now we're starting to see some deals again, and it's about time. Prices were going up and up and up, and just because of demand exceeded supply, and everyone's saying, well, there's inflation, so we can throw a little bit, we can jack up our prices too, and people were taking advantage of that. Sorry to say, but I think now we're going to see the opposite of that, and prices coming back down and better deals, and that's good. That's good.
100%. Well, great topic as always, gents. Again, we've gone past what I would consider the timeline, but is there anything else we wanted to talk about before we wrap it up tonight?
I'm good.
No, we're good. Go trout fishing this weekend. Go crappie fishing. Go pike fishing. Whenever's open, go enjoy it. So
I'm tying jigs.
Tie jigs. Jim, I was at Fishing World on Saturday. Your pegs are getting a little low. I'm just letting you know.
Hey, hang on.
All right.
Here's what I got. Here's what I got up from Fishing World yesterday.
Okay. All right. You let me know when that ships.
That ruined my crappie fishing.
You let me know when that ships. I saw a couple of big jims. I saw some fluff on one peg. Only a
Yeah,
couple.
they didn't
pieces
order
left.
much fluff. They only ordered a little bit, but they still had some because you got a
Well,
little left.
I'm going to talk to Mike and Jim, and they better get some more fluff in there. Is all I got to say. I'm going to have a conversation with those two fellas. Yeah, you got it.
I might
You got it.
deliver this order in person with the baseball
Ooh.
bat, and I'll have Scotty dressed up in a suit again.
I like that. I like
He'll be waiting outside at the door looking around.
all those. Hey, dude, all those Erie guys that spend money at Fishing World, they need fluff. That's my call. I say it. Yeah.
Well, we don't want to prove George Morgan right that CFN has become a cult or part of the foundation or family, but
The mafia.
we're willing to do anything to help our community. But
Yeah.
one thing I will say, the catfish that we showed at the very beginning of the show,
Yes.
I have to say, you were very, very close, Jay, very, very close. But Lawrence was so close. In fact, he
All
was
right.
the best guess. But from all of our viewers tonight, the closest guess that I saw was the one and only Ed McKenzie, who guessed 97 pounds.
Holy shit.
Wow.
The actual weight of that fish was 91 pounds.
Oh, wow.
91.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I was only off by 3 or 4 pounds.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I was
Gents,
close
as
to-
always, thanks so much for joining us.
All right.
We're just around the corner. And so
Thanks,
is all
guys.
kinds of other fishing. Thanks for sharing your
Be
time.
safe out there.
Yeah, fun as
Peace.
always.
All the best,
Peace.
guys.
Ta-ta.
Peace. Love you all. It has been an absolute pleasure and a delight. Thanks so much to Yvonne and, of course, Alesha for showing up, spending a little bit of time, spreading some knowledge, and, of course, Tackle Share, which is a great initiative that OFAH puts on. So if you're interested or want to get involved, OFAH.org is a great site to go to. Again, Steve, can't thank you enough for all the work that you do behind the scenes, dude. You keep this thing rolling, and of course, all of the links. It really helps out when it comes to spreading the knowledge. Again, last but not least, you, the viewers. If it wasn't for you guys, we just wouldn't exist. So, whether we're a cult, whether we're a foundation, or just a like-minded group, fishing, angling community group that gets together every Monday to share our time, share a story, share a pat on the back, or what have you. I can't thank you enough. And I love you all. I wish you all have a great week. And Dave, it's time, buddy. Take us away. Peace.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.